Yeah, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NFL Strategy Show presented by Yahoo Fantasy Sports. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D. Hit your boy up. And while you're at it, say hello to Ben Rasa at JazzRaz DFS, along with Jordan Vanek at Jordan Vanek DFS over on the Twitters as well. Week 5 is gone. Monday Night Football was absurd. And now we move on to week 6. Ben, kind of our wheelhouse, finally getting some of those bye weeks. For the first time, we have less than a 12 or 13 game slate. Only 10 games on the main slate coming into Sunday.
You know, when you look at it, you think it doesn't make a difference, but it really changes everything to me. A couple less teams, couple less options, the opportunity cost change. So I'm very excited to dive into it. I love when teams are on the bye. I think it's a little more game theory centric. And after a ridiculously high scoring week 5, I'm hoping we get back down to normal scores in week 6.
Yeah, let's hope so, Jordan. I mean, the chalk hit on a lot of levels, and it should have in many respects. I mean, Derrick Henry, 3 touchdowns isn't going to happen every week, but he went off. Devontae Adams went off. The list goes on of absurd performances from players. It's almost a good thing that Kansas City Buffalo wasn't on the main slate, but we move on to week 6, and hopefully it won't be as insane as we saw in week 5. But that's just football at this point. There's really no predicting half of the stuff that happens from week to week.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Chargers and Browns game, the point total in that fourth quarter was absolutely ridiculous. But at least this week with the bye weeks, we get to avoid Cordero Patterson, which is fantastic. The Jets aren't on the slate, which is another punt team great that they're not here. I mean, I love bye weeks because of the fact that, again, it's more game theory and less games to really talk about and play, which just makes it a little bit tighter builds. And for me, I feel like it gives me an advantage on the field and just everybody in the slate.
All right. So, Ben, first things first, looking back at week 5, any overreactions or anything we should be looking at here, just straight out of the gate that maybe people are approaching as something that makes them target a player really heavily, stay away from a player, just straight overreactions? Or was it pretty much par for the course in terms of what we're looking at for week 6?
No, I think the biggest takeaway is that what you already said, you know, the reason people are chalk is either their price is wildly inefficient or they're in an extremely good matchup. They are the most likely players to have big weeks. So when it happens, I don't want to overreact and say we have to alter what we do. That's going to happen some weeks. And I know we've talked about this, Laffy. Generally, when it's a week like that, I know on a personal level, it's not good for me because a lot of times I'm pivoting off some of those spots. I don't like when the winning scores are like 250. But I think you want to stay the course. There's going to be plenty of weeks where there are pivots at those price points. And just because people are very popular and they're in really good spots, there's still a lot more that goes into evaluating whether they're worthy of a roster spot.
All right, so let's dive into it. Before we do, as always, we're happy to have you guys with us. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. It only takes a brief second of your time. So quick, you won't even know you did it if you like this content. Of course, if you don't, well, feel free to abstain. But, hey, subscribe to the channel as well. We crushed 60,000 subscribers at the start of the season, thanks to all of you. But if you haven't subscribed yet, and like 50% of the people that watch our shows, watch our videos, still aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. If you hate it, you never have to hear from us again. Just click unsubscribe, go about your way, and we will, mutually part ways, hopefully without any malice. Oh, and if you want to join the channel, hit that join down below. Get the custom emojis, the badges. Our boy Jordan Klein producing the show has that nifty 6-month badge. Jordan, I'm looking to get that year badge. That's where it starts looking sexy. That icy badge. You know what I'm talking about?
I do not know what you're talking about.
No, okay, that's fine. I was talking to Jordan Klein anyway. I got to be more specific. But all right, let's dive into it. Jordan Vanek, we'll start with you. At the running back position, up top, you've got McCaffrey, who Matt Rule is hoping will play against Minnesota. And on the other side of it, Dalvin Cook's price point, he's $1,100 less expensive than McCaffrey on DraftKings this week. But then you also have Austin Eckler, who is the RB2 through the first 5 weeks. He's been dominant, facing off against this Baltimore team that was involved in an incredible duel last night, pulled the win out in overtime. But in terms of what?
I'm throwing a challenge flag. I'm challenging the play. Can we start with quarterbacks, my man? I want to talk about my boys.
My fault.
It's all good.
On the ownership show, we start with running backs because we do top stacks at the end. Thank you. Thank you. You know what drives me insane, though? Jordan Klein will sit there looking like he's just lost his mind, pulling his hair, but won't turn his mic on and be like, hey, wrong thing. You're a producer for a reason.
He gave me the subliminal do something.
Jordan, you can jump in. I'm not, it's okay. Jump in if I do something wrong. I'm not infallible. All right. Unfallible, infallible. I don't know. I'm fallible. All right. Jordan Vanek. Let's talk about the top tier here. Patrick Mahomes against Washington. It just feels like a mega smash spot. Kyler Murray against the Cleveland team that we just saw almost, was it 90 total points or something absurd against the Chargers? Lamar, who is, ready for this, 5th in passing yards on the season and 8th in rushing yards overall. Just insane. He has more total yards than more than half of the league this season. And then Herbert against the same Baltimore team at 7,300. What are we doing at the top?
For me, I think I'm just going to be playing Patrick Mahomes, who I expect to be the most popular. I'm hoping that Lamar and Herbert being cheaper pull away some of the ownership. But against Washington, like if you look at these games against their defense, you see Cordero Patterson running free deep. You saw Marquez Callaway, Deontay Harris. Like, I think this is a week where you can 3-stack with Mahomes and get one of the Byron Pringle, Josh Gordon, DeMarcus Robinson type player, and with Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce, and Mahomes is just going to go for 30 because the Chiefs right now they're struggling. They're under 500 again. They need the win, and I think they're just not going to let up the foot off the brake. And defensively, they're not going to be able to stop anybody this year, it seems. So Mahomes should not be coming out or worry about them just running the ball. And this one is just a smash spot for them.
Ben, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs defense, we were talking a little before the show, and I think all of us were saying they might be the worst defense in the league. They've given up 29 or more points in every game. They're not able to blow teams out because every team can score on them. You're not going to go wrong with Mahomes. It's going to be interesting. We haven't had Lamar on the main slate too often. He's played a lot of primetime games, and certainly he brings a dynamic that it used to be him and Kyler, but so far this year, Kyler Murray, and I think it'll change in losses, but he has really shown himself to be less of a dynamic quarterback. He's just dominating from the pocket. He's not using his dual threat ability. He had 1 rushing yard in the win in week 5. That's just super atypical. So Lamar is kind of in that class by himself in the rushing component, but you have pretty much every heavy hitter on this slate except Brady, but man, it's absolutely loaded at the top. Mahomes, though, it's hard to deny what kind of game flow you have basically every week with the way the Chiefs play defense.
The crazy thing too, yeah, as you just mentioned, Ben, like we look at this game and it's not a situation at all where you go, all right, you know, Kansas City trashes them and doesn't allow any points. I think it's very much in the realm of possibilities that Kansas City wins this by multiple scores. But at the same time, you're looking at a Washington team that is quarterbacked by Taylor Heineke right now, has a 24.5 point total. I mean, that's a pretty significant implied total for the Washington football team with Taylor Heineke at the helm and a clearly banged up Antonio Gibson with that shin injury in the backfield.
I mean, I know it feels like obviously the Chiefs are not going to go to 2-4. They're going to find a way to do it. The spread is not, you know, we're not talking about, oh, they're 2 touchdown favorite. They're 6.5 point road favorite. Like teams that are 6.5 point road favorites go down all the time. So this could be a very competitive game. The Chiefs could lose the game. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities, but I do think no matter what, with Edwards-Helaire down, this is just the Mahomes show. He's going to have to simply outscore Washington, and that is just absolutely what we want from a fantasy standpoint.
So I guess the biggest question then, Jordan, is when you're looking at the top of this position, obviously Mahomes is in a stellar spot. And we'll get to some good punt options here too. I mean, Mecole Hardman's only $4,200 this week. So, you know, coming off probably a career high game in targets. I think he was targeted 12 times in that ugly home loss to the Buffalo Bills. But we know that Mahomes is going to be popular. Travis Kelce's price point, and we'll get to the tight end position, has actually come down considerably. He was 8,500 in week 2, 8,000 in week 4, no price tag in week 5. He's now 7,000 flat, and Tyreek Hill is $500 less than Devontae Adams. I say all of this to point out that it's going to be easier to stack Kansas City than it has been all season long, despite the fact that they get a matchup against a truly atrocious, right now at least, secondary for Washington. So that leads me to the question of, if Mahomes is, and this stack is just super chalky in tournaments, is it too good to pass up? Or will we want to make some pivots to a Murray or a Jackson or a Herbert or some of these other guys up top that are naturally going to get a lot less ownership?
I think the pivot would be to Lamar because of his cheaper weapons on the receiving end. But like with Lamar, you want him to run, which is just something that the Chargers give up a lot to. So I think Lamar has a chance to have one of his, 250 passing, 100 rushing, because this is the matchup for him to run. But like with Mahomes versus Justin Herbert, like Justin Herbert is 1,000 less. Mike Williams is 8,100. You could play Mahomes and Kelsey for 100 cheaper than Mike Williams and Justin Herbert. And it's like, I'm going to go with Mahomes and Kelsey for the $100 cheaper price tag. And you could even throw in your McCole Hardman. Like, I'm not sure I'm getting away from Mahomes this week. Kyler banged up his shoulder this past weekend, which scares me because, when he gets banged up, I think the idea is like, let's not run him as much. And with Lamar, I want him to be running. This is a spot for him to run. And it's like one of those weird stacking options. I think if Rashad Bateman comes back, that could pull more ownership to Lamar because it would just make a cheap stack.
Hey, Ray P, thanks for the super chat, brother. Ben, that's a nice way to start off the show, huh?
Yeah, much appreciated.
Little super chat action. Says, thanks for all you do. On a 10-game slate, what is the most ownership you would have of any player in large field tournaments like Yahoo? Thanks again and good luck this week. Ben, it's early to answer that. We don't have ownership projections. Tune in tomorrow for the ownership show. But if you just have a general rule of thumb, I'm sure Ray would be happy to hear it.
So, those type of questions, honestly, it's all slate dependent. Like I've had situation where I've locked the player before. And I've had situations where my highest owned player of the week is like 25%. I think the key thing to take away is remember that you have to get, if you're trying to get leverage, it's relative to the field. So if you want leverage on a guy that's extremely popular, you might have to have him in 60% of your lineups because he's 30% owned. If you like a guy and no one else is really getting to him and he's 5% projected ownership, you can take 3x and you only need 15%. So I think it starts with figure out who the most popular plays are. And then if you like those guys, you might have to really increase your exposure across your slate. So no set rules, just really start at that point, and I think you'll be just fine.
And hey, Kevin, thanks for joining Team Awesemo. Welcome, brother. Throw out one of those Dr. Ben emojis. Get started off on the right foot. Jordan, at the mid-range, though, at quarterback, I find some interesting spots here as well. You've got Matthew Stafford against the Giants. They're 10.5-point favorites. Do we think that they're going to go heavy on the run game? Maybe, but every time we make that assumption, it turns out that like they just light them up through the first three quarters and then they lean on the run and it makes no difference. Joe Burrow against Detroit, dealing with that throat thing, went to the hospital. He's fine, precautionary. He's got the Lions. Where do we go in the mid-range? And if there's anyone I didn't mention there, feel free to throw it out.
Well, if McCaffrey plays, I do like Sam Darnold. But with McCaffrey's injury still being up in the air, I think you really can't go wrong with Joe Burrow against the Detroit Lions, who, like, Joe Mixon's still banged up. I don't think he looked decent, but I don't think they're going to utilize him too much. They had a tough loss last week because of just the missed field goals, which was just crazy to watch. And against this Detroit Lions defense, they should be able to have their way with them through the air. Against like the deep ball this year, the Detroit Lions are one of the worst teams in the NFL, giving up over 100 yards on passes 20 yards down the field or more. And recently it's just been even worse. Jamar Chase is phenomenal. T. Higgins is going to probably be more healthy than he was this past weekend. Burrow and Chase stacks are, again, something I'm willing to target. And the Lions have cheap run backs as well.
What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I have no problem with that. The Lions have really been confusing. It seemed like they were going to be a team that was awful, but they would score a lot. Then they get into some really good game environments and they've done absolutely nothing. Now they also could have won a couple games here, should have won a couple games. I mean, I don't think there's a ton to like down there. Certainly a lot of these bad matchups are just bad quarterbacks. I think the obvious one, as we've already kind of alluded to, on the other side of the Chiefs game, you're going to move the ball no matter what. You're going to have to outscore Kansas City. Heineke is just in a really good spot because he's going to drop back a ton. He's cheap and he's in the best game environment you could practically find.
Dude, I tell you, when it comes to Joe Burrow, what makes this interesting is for a fact, Ben, that Jamar Chase is going to be. I don't have ownership in front of me. We don't have it yet. Jamar Chase is going to be chalky. Like there's just no doubt about it. But then you've got T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and then Mixon, who was limited last week. It does feel like there are going to be ways to maybe get a little bit creative with Cincinnati if you have the balls to not go overload on Jamar Chase, because you just know he's going to be popular. He's been phenomenal.
No doubt about it. I mean, if you have creative stacks that exclude him, that'll be leverage. And even if you include him, maybe just getting the right, secondary option. It's just so difficult with this guy because, I mean, we've seen it every single week, and I've actually been hitting this prop. It's not a prop that I bet often, but the longest completion for Jamar Chase has cashed in all 5 weeks. And I didn't bet it the first couple of weeks, but I've been betting it the last few. He had a 70-yard touchdown against Green Bay. They give him opportunities. And I think if you watch that Green Bay, you saw it. He wins one-on-ones. I mean, these are not, he's wide open. He is going to get the ball. Him and Burrow, going back to LSU, clearly have something. So I get it. He's just really asserting himself as the clear alpha in this offense.
There's no question about it. Now, Jordan, this is where I think it gets a little interesting. Okay, so down here at the bottom of the position, well, really sub 6K, there's not a lot I like. And I'm with you on Mahomes through and through. I don't see how you don't want to play Mahomes this week. It's just, especially coming off that embarrassing loss at Arrowhead, that shit has got to sting, especially to Buffalo, who's been your little brother, but Baltimore and Baltimore and Buffalo were the whipping children, your whipping boys of Kansas City, and they've both beat them this year. So not great. But on the other side, Taylor Heineke, I know he hasn't been amazing, but he's actually been pretty consistent from 3 of the first 4 weeks. Is Taylor Heineke somebody that we should definitely be considering this week at his price point in tournaments?
For tournaments, definitely. His price point is very, very cheap, and it will allow you to get upwards in price of the running backs, and you can just target Kelsey as the running back, or just Tyreek Hill, and avoid trying the guessing game of Josh Gordon, McCole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson, and such. I think that's a good spot for tournaments. I don't think he's going to come in super popular because I think the ownership is just going to stay to the top in Burrow and Stafford. I don't think many people are going to go down to Heineke. But, I mean, of these price points, he's the clear-cut only option I'm even considering. Yeah,
Ben, that's exactly where I'm at. I see Heineke down there. I don't know if there's anybody else I want to look at. Maybe you have a difference of opinion. What do you do sub 6K at quarterback?
I really don't, honestly. Like, I would love to mix it up, but it's just such a good game environment for him. And then you look at these other, Daniel Jones, we got to see if he's even going to play. Even if he does, he's got the Rams. That's a no. All these other quarterbacks are either very conservative or just not good, in my opinion. So, like, I thought Wentz played phenomenal last night. I just think that against Houston, they're 10-point favorites. It feels like a game where they really get back to their roots and just dominate on the ground. So I have nothing else to say. I think if you threw Heineke out and I had to give you another guy, I would just say Derek Carr, because he's shown it this year a little, but in Denver is a terrible matchup. And we all know that the Raiders probably a little messed up this week. So Heineke by a mile for punt options.
Mangles has been a great 2 weeks. Used Awesemo free entry 2 weeks ago to win a Monday Night Football slate for close to 800, then turn around and won 6,500 this week. All from the Awesemo link you guys gave me. Ben, I assume he's talking about the Yahoo one.
I think so. And the thing that we always talk about this, in addition to getting all the value, our tools are specifically tailored for Yahoo as well. It's not like you have to take the FanDuel or DraftKings tools and figure it out for yourself. We have all these tools for the sites, and that is a huge, huge edge, because a lot of other people, they're on Yahoo, but they're not able to access that stuff. And that is, I think, one of the key takeaways. So congratulations, man.
Yeah, that's huge wins. If you missed out on the insane Awesemo plus Yahoo promotion we were doing, where you get 2 free months just by signing up at Yahoo and depositing $10 using our link, that was all you had to do. We're still doing 1 month. That's still a $90 value. Okay. Actually, it's free if you think of it this way. You sign up at Yahoo Fantasy. You have to be a new user. You sign up using the link in the description below and the one that Jordan Klein's about to throw in the chat right now. All right. And deposit $10. You can deposit more. Doesn't matter. $10. Not only will you get a free month of Awesemo Plus, which is everything on the site, football, baseball, basketball, hockey, MMA, PGA, NASCAR, esports, everything. Ownership, boom bust tool, player projection, top stack tool, lineup builder, all of which built by the #1 ranked DFS player out there, Awesemo himself, Alex Baker. Fellas won a lot of money using these tools. But you'll also get $10 from Yahoo that they'll put into your account. So, I mean, that right there is enough to enter the $1 million baller or do it however you please. So basically, it's free, Ben. It's free to get $90 worth of Awesemo Plus. There's really zero reason not to do it. That's all I'm saying.
No doubt. Give it a shot. That's what we always say with all these things. Like you're not signing for life. We don't make you sign in blood. If you don't like it, you got a free month. You gave it a shot and you move on with your life. So we know you're going to enjoy it. It's definitely worth trying out.
No doubt. And there's a Awesemo special too. Oh, I forgot about that. The Awesemo special, $100,000 Awesemo special for week 6, $10,000 up top and a year of Awesemo Plus Platinum to first place. Shit. I mean, come on now. There's less than 2,000 spots left, so hurry up and click that link. Jordan, is there a separate link to the contest that there is to sign up using the link to get the free month? Yes? Okay. So use the link to get the free month, sign up, use it $10 or deposit $10, get your $10, get your free Awesemo Plus. All right. We'll email you with a link to sign up after all of that is done and use all of those tools for Yahoo that we have on the site. Once you sign up or once you use that link to get into the new one or to the Awesemo Appreciation Contest, $100,000, $10K up top. Take advantage of that, fellas. All right, let's talk about running backs then if we're good here on quarterback. We good on quarterback?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. So as I jumped the gun earlier, I was referring, Jordan, to Christian McCaffrey. Matt Rule hopes to get him back this week. Eckler, who is the RB2 through 5 weeks, and then Dalvin Cook, who could return, who knows, tried to play last week, but was ruled out before the game kicked off. $7,700. How do we approach the top of the position this week?
For me, if McCaffrey's playing, I'm just going to play him. And my 3 entry maxes, I'll probably lock him to get the leverage. Last week, he practiced in a limited fashion from Wednesday to Saturday. And then they're like, all right, we're not going to do this. But if he comes out here and practices this week and gets even one full participation, then McCaffrey at 8,800, even if he isn't 100%, what he does for this offense, I don't think they're going to limit like the workload because we didn't really do that last year, and we are trying to win. This GM partnership is very adamant about winning football games, and this is the way to do it. McCaffrey's our best player. If he's playing, I'm going with him. And to be honest, with what I'm going to be doing at quarterback and probably receiver, tight end, I'm looking at the mid-tier for running back. So I'm not really thrilled with the top-tier options.
Okay, what about you, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to – if it's always a luxury spend if you have the money, certainly. You can't go wrong up there. The guy that I'm going to hone in, though, at the top, I really liked him last week. It's Nick Chubb. This is just a guy that it's tough. I do think his path is a little more narrow than a lot of people because he's become, unfortunately, almost a Derrick Henry-esque virtual zero. Derrick Henry of old, I guess you should say, because lately Derrick Henry's given you more. He's had 1 or 0 targets in 4 straight weeks. So he has to get it all done on the ground, but he does. And he's got Arizona. Arizona's awful. 5.4 yards allowed per rush. That's 31st in the league. The Browns are, I feel very confident, going to win the game. They're favorites to win the game. I expect a very similar output. He had 21 carries for $160 against the Chargers' awful run defense. I honestly think that's a pretty good kind of baseline for what he's going to be doing. I think he's going to have 20 plus carries and another really good week this week.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's kind of crazy on Nick Chubb because he's among the league. He's 4th in carries. He's only 3 behind Joe Mixon. He's got 90 carries, 20 plus carries in 3 straight games. So the opportunity on the ground is absolutely there. 21, 21, and 22 carries over his last couple of games. And he still has 4 touchdowns on the season. He just isn't targeted often. The thing that is crazy to me, Ben, is if I were to tell you, yeah, okay, Nick Chubb is 11th in PPR points through the first 5 weeks. Not bad. Where does Kareem Hunt rank?
Yeah, it's like, what, top 15?
6th.
See, that's crazy. That is really surprising that but it just shows the value of the targets. We talked about that with Kamara, even though he's getting like 25 carries a game. You need the targets. And I get it. I do think, though, game script wise, and it's not maybe I'm wrong about this, but I don't think that Nick Chubb has to be a zero in the passing game. I think he can be a guy that sees 2 or 3 targets each and every week and gives you something. And I'm hoping that maybe we see that a little more often as we start the next kind of chapter of games here.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. And look, the crazy thing too is Kareem Hunt has 0 receiving touchdowns. He has 5 rushing touchdowns. That's the part that stands out. You go, oh my God. Like, yeah, Nick Chubb's got 4 of them, but a couple of them have not been near the goal line. And now Kareem Hunt has 4 goal line carries to Chubb's 6, despite Chubb having 24 red zone carries to Kareem Hunt's 13. Last thing I'll say about McCaffrey, and then let's hear your thoughts on this mid-range that you alluded to a second ago, Jordan. I will just point this out, right? That if McCaffrey plays and is not limited, he was $9,500 in week 1, $9,900 in week 2. He's $8,800. So I think you can make a good argument that Christian McCaffrey at full capacity against Minnesota is still a value at that price point. What do you like at the mid-range where we've got Gibson against KC, Mixon against Detroit, Swift against Cincinnati? There's a lot down here. And Jonathan Taylor against Houston.
Yeah, no, the mid-range is the spot where I want to be this week. Jonathan Taylor against Houston as 10-point favorites is the one that stands out for me because last night they actually utilized him in the passing game, and when he just gets the ball in his hands, he's electric. I'm super confused the way they kind of approached him at the end of the game, but against Houston, I think this is a great spot for Jonathan Taylor. Running backs have had success against Houston this year, and this is a game script that just favors him to get over 20 carries. The other running back that I think stands out to me is in the 6K is Darrell Henderson against the Giants. He's been banged up this year, but 10 days of rest. New York Giants defense is just falling apart in the middle. I think this is a smash spot for him as well.
Do you have any concerns that Sonny Michel gets worked in more than we'd like him to?
The only concern I think is if Darrell Henderson gets banged up. Sonny Michel's fumbled multiple times this year, which I think is like he's come in and gotten the opportunity again because Darrell Henderson gets hurt. When Henderson gets the ball, he's been phenomenal. I believe he averaged over 6 yards a carry last week. And with all the attention to the passing attack, I think the Rams will just be able to run the ball and control it with Henderson.
Was he hurt, or did Sonny Michel just come in and get opportunities? Because he had a goal line carry as well.
He got hurt his shoulder. Like he came out for a few plays, and Sonny Michel took the drive, and Sonny Michel got like 6 points, and then Darrell Henderson came back in and was fine.
Okay. Because I remember Darrell Henderson coming back in, and then there was a commercial break, and then Sonny Michel came back in, and then Sonny Michel got a goal line carry and scored on it late in the game. So I don't know. I mean, I believe you. It's just, it seemed to me that Michel got, and I know this because I had the under bet on his rushing yards prop, but that didn't work.
Yeah, I'm interested. No, go ahead.
I was going to say the rushing yard bet, he literally came in and got like 6 straight carries. It was like he got like 9 touches in 1 drive. He had
6 and then he had 15 and I had under 21.5. So in 2 carries, he was a half a yard away. Go ahead, Ben.
I just don't know if he ever would have got those carries all in all. I'm not saying he wouldn't have entered the game, but he came in for that drive because Darrell Henderson got hurt.
Agreed.
And then, you know, he rattled off 6 or 7 carries and then he got some additional work. But even so, it's honestly like Nick Chubb to an extent. It's not like they can't coexist. Like I think Sonny Michel may get some work, but if you're going to tell me that Darrell Henderson's going to get north of 15 carries and maybe a couple targets, I'll live with the result no matter what Sonny Michel does at flat 6. So 10-point favorites, really good spot for Darrell Henderson. And it seems that he's fine. Injury-wise, he's playing through it anyway. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I'm not against it at all, to be clear. I'm just throwing it out there that it did look like, he got banged up, but then Michel was producing a lot and they just left him out there for a bit is how it appeared to me. Like it looked like Henderson was fine after Sonny Michel's first couple of carries. Ben, let me stick with you for a second, though. I rattled off a couple of players here a minute ago with Taylor still, not getting those 20 carry games, but Nyheim Hines was targeted only once yesterday. And if you watch that game, that was a throwaway from Wentz to escape a sack. I wouldn't even consider that a target. Jonathan Taylor, on the other hand, was actually relatively involved in the passing game, clear lead rusher. Marlon Mack will probably be gone before this week starts. Antonio Gibson's playing with a shin, but Kansas City's run defense is as bad as their secondary. Mixon should be back to full strength. Swift is seeing some of the most quality opportunities in the league this year in the goal line and as a pass catcher. There are some options I really like in this 6K range, a lot.
If you don't have the money and you're paying up elsewhere, this is a really good range to attack. You've got some backs that certainly can catch the ball, focal points to the offense. It's maybe not the best situations, but yeah, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, I think it's a little masked because one of the catches, the first one, went for an 80-yard touchdown. And if it was just like, if he had 4 targets and 3 catches for like 15 yards, I don't know if everyone would be talking about it in this light, but it's still really good to see him involved there. And then you've got guys like Mixon and Swift for teams that realistically, particularly the Lions, it's hard to not think that he won't be involved if they have any hope of staying in the game. And I love, he's had 5 or more targets in every single game this year. So a lot to like there. I think this is a range. If you don't have the money, doubling up in the 6s is very comfortable for me.
I like that too. Jordan, are there any value options that stand out to you here, sub 6K?
The value is very tough, but like dependent upon, I really just hope Javonte Williams takes over in like the under 6K range. I'm hoping that he just finally gets a shot over Melvin Gordon because he just feels like the better running back. They priced the Arizona running backs ugly enough for me to just completely stay away. I'm not buying into the Devontae Booker because he's getting the touches and Saquon's out, and I'm just not playing the running back with Mike Glennon.
So Ben, you have a theory on Denver that until they're out of contention, if they are, that you'll probably continue to see Melvin Gordon get opportunities because they might, even with the easy schedule through the first 3 weeks, might possibly be better than they thought they were going to be. Is that paraphrasing you correctly?
Yeah, I mean, they're 3-2. When you're 3-2, your sole focus is winning week 6. Like the Jets, we talked about this with Michael Carter a little bit. The Jets' focus is obviously still winning, but it's also, okay, we know this is probably going to be a long-term plan. Denver, they win. They're 4-2, and they're in the thick of a division that right now the Chiefs don't look like the Chiefs. So they have to do what they need to do, and I think that really helps Melvin Gordon.
Okay. Yeah. The only one I want to talk about then really, Ben, would be, because I don't think there's a lot down here. Maybe double tapping the 6K range makes a lot of sense given that value is not very deep. But Devontae Booker, they're huge dogs. It's not a good spot. Rams on PFF grade out as the #1 ranked run defense. Like there's just nothing really redeeming about this matchup. But in the same breath, I think I mentioned this to you on the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel yesterday when we did the waiver wire show and the injury show. Check that out too over at the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel if you haven't done so yet. I got a good start sit video coming out tomorrow morning as well. But that Wayne Gallman from week 7 through 13 last year was the RB6 in PPR formats. And this offense was terrible anyway. So like if Danny Jones is back this week, is there any merit to saying I'll just play Booker based on volume alone, or has he been preemptively priced up to the point where it's just really not worth going there?
It feels more the latter. It's just such a bad spot. I think if it's Mike Glennon, I don't think I can do it because I seriously worry how they're going to score at all. But if you've got Daniel Jones, and depending on what's up with Golladay, Shepard, and Slayton, Saquon's not going to be there, of course. I think you could do it. I mean, if he sees 20 touches and even 25% of them are targets and receptions, how bad could it really go? But I think this is where we feel the difference of the slate in terms of buy teams. There's just not that many guys here that are reasonable options. If we had 4 more teams, we'd be able to find more guys. I think you really are best served finding a little extra money. The difference between Darrell Henderson, Swift, Mixon, Jonathan Taylor types and Edmonds, Pollard, Connor, Booker types is immense, and it's only like $1,000 difference.
Not even in some of them. So yeah, that's a great point. You have to look at it in context. Do either of you guys have any other cheap options that are worth even pointing out? Maybe good tournament options.
If the chat just pointed this out, if we get clarity in New England, if Harris misses, I think you could look to Stevenson, but that's a dependent on the injury report.
All right. What about you, Jordan? Anybody else?
Darrell Williams with Clyde at 4,900. Not something that I'm going to go heavy on, but it's something to look at. other than that, the range is like your McKissick, Hines, Bolden for pass catching upside. But Ramondre, I mean, he got 39% of the carries. He just did nothing with it. The dude averaged 2.1 yards per carry. If New England's offensive line is still out, I have no interest in playing him.
The only other guy I'd point out, and I'm really not too interested here because I think Damian Williams would be the one that gets the bulk of the pass catching work anyway. It was just was targeted 3 times and Herbert wasn't targeted at all. But Khalil Herbert saw 18 carries last week. That's a lot of carries.
What a world.
I know. And I know that they were milking away the clock and they were up against Las Vegas, but 18 carries for Khalil Herbert. Dang. I just think I just don't think there's much meat on the bone there against the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I mean, I played Pop Warner with Khalil, so it was cool to see someone playing football with go out there and get the carries. But I mean, he was productive. The Bears' offense is just too ugly for me to target.
All right, so wide receiver would be the natural progression here, fellas. So let's make that happen. Do we have any free content today?
Always.
I think we do. What'd you say?
I said always.
Always. MLB player projections free at awesemo.com. PGA top golfers tool free at awesemo.com. What do we got coming up this week for PGA?
It's a good one. CJ Cup. So another tournament in Vegas. A lot of the big time players have made the trip. So excited to break that down. We'll have shows throughout the week, live before lock tomorrow.
You're going to do any betting analysis on the odds channel for this?
So we'll have some stuff there, but in our live before lock show, which is available right on this channel, me and Eric Lindquist, we get into our favorite bets as well. So it's not the biggest time for PGA golf, I'll be honest, but it's still good to capture value, particularly in the betting markets.
All right. Hey, hit that thumbs up. Almost at 100. Appreciate you guys. We only had to mention it once today. Almost at 100 likes. This is a ride or die people that hang out with us on a Tuesday morning for a Sunday slate. I mean, doesn't get much better than that. Jordan, what are we doing at the top of wide receiver where you have Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill in an absolute smash spot, and then Mike Williams up here with the big dogs now, him and Justin Jefferson rounding out that 8K range on DraftKings?
I'd really like Tyreek Hill's spot against this Washington defense. We've seen them get killed on the deep ball multiple times. We've talked about how much we like Mahomes, but a player that we haven't talked about is Cooper Kupp's price dropped. I don't know why. I don't know what he necessarily did that was so bad. He had one game where Robert Woods saw 15 catches. Like, Cooper Kupp was, the savior, the best receiver in football. He still averages the most points per game in DraftKings. I'm confused to see his price at 7,900. We saw CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper both find the end zone, but I guess game script could be out of, price or get out of hand. But again, 7,900 for Cooper Kupp was a shock for me, at least.
It is kind of a shock, Ben, for a guy that has now been targeted double-digit times in all 5 weeks and is really getting it opened up as well with some decent deep balls. His long receptions, 35, 35, 35, 33, 22, 44, and 56. So, Kupp's upside and explosiveness this season are unparalleled to anything we've seen from him in the past. How do you approach the top range?
Yeah, so, Devontae Adams has taken over as where he probably should be just because he's so consistent. And Cooper Kupp is interesting just because it felt like he was overpriced. Now he's probably a little more efficiently priced. I just worry about exactly where the ceiling is against a team that realistically I don't think has any chance of staying in that game. So I just worry about that a little bit. Boy, the guy that I really want to talk about, and it's definitely the riskiest of the big names, but I still think that DeAndre Hopkins is going to have some games where we see the old DeAndre Hopkins in terms of target share, in terms of just ability and whatnot. And I think in a game like this, we could see just that. We saw the Chargers. It got out of control against the Browns. And I think here in a game where Arizona may be trailing, maybe this is the first emergence of a monster DeAndre Hopkins week. And if you're early on him, you could get paid off in a big way.
So I can help. I can further along this narrative, if you please. Kyler Murray had 28 targeted attempts last game, which means that while Hopkins was only targeted 9 times, that's a 32% target share. That's pretty good. The problem is it consistent? Does it hang around And as DeAndre Hopkins, the problem for me with this is, as much as I love DeAndre Hopkins, I just don't know right now if it's worth going to him over Kupp or over Tyreek Hill at a similar price point. I mean, how much better is he than DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin against Kansas City, Jamar Chase at 6,700? Like, I think that potential's there, Ben, no doubt about it. But there's so many good players right now that seem to have better price points based on their production and volume that they've seen in their respective offenses.
Well, I don't think that's up for debate. And that's where it comes down to. I assume that everyone, because if you look, that's what your conclusion is going to be, is going to say that. And DeAndre Hopkins in a lot of people's lineups is going to be an afterthought. So you're talking about a low probability play relative to the range. But if you get it right, is it worth it? And I think at low ownership, the answer to that is yes. If he's even remotely, this is not going to happen, but if he was even remotely in Jamar Chase or DJ Moore's ownership range, it wouldn't even be close. It would be those guys by a mile.
All right, fair enough. Jordan, what do you think of this like upper mid-range, below 7K, but where you've got the Hopkins, the Moore, the Terry McLaurin, the Jamar Chase, a lot of big name options here?
Yeah, no, I love Jamar Chase this week because of, Detroit Lions being one of the worst secondaries in football. But Keenan Allen actually stood out to me because now he's 1,700 less than Mike Williams. And against this Ravens team where we saw Michael Pittman, we saw Paris Campbell, we saw the Colts being able to move the ball through the air. Justin Herbert's been phenomenal this year, and Keenan in this type of game, I think, is going to be heavily targeted. I think Mike Williams is one of those big play type of guys, and definitely Baltimore can give up the big play, but with all the attention or all this production he's had, I think Baltimore is going to look to take away him, and it's going to leave Keenan Allen one-on-one coverage without Marlon Humphrey on him. And I think it's a great spot for him and a good stacking option with Herbert.
Ben, is there anyone else in the mid-range worth talking about? Because in my opinion, there's a lot. I mean, Robert Woods was the squeaky wheel. He got the grease, right? I mean, 14 targets last game, didn't find the end zone, but was highly effective. Jamar Chase at 67. Again, Terry McLaurin at 71 against Kansas City. How do you not love that? Cortland Sutton coming off of a 11 target, 7 for 120 and a touchdown game. I don't know. I just think there's a lot here. Even if you get into the high 5K range, there's some options that just have a pretty explosive ceiling.
No doubt about it. I think this is, again, if you're looking for kind of a balanced build this week, we talked about those 6K running backs. I'd be comfortable having probably 3 receivers in some lineups that are in this range as well. You mentioned Keenan Allen, certainly Chase, I think stands out, but Sutton, I don't really worry. I dug in a little bit. Like Vegas has been pretty good against the pass, but they played Pittsburgh, Miami, Chicago, the Ravens and the Chargers in there. But it's not like they faced a ton of prolific passing attacks. I think Sutton can certainly have a game there. And you've got guys a little lower like Michael Pittman Jr., who I still think, even though it's a good game script for the ground game, he can get there. Thielen is sub 6 for a first time in a long time. I mean, I know it's not ideal against the Panthers, but there are names here and you're not paying a huge opportunity cost.
Michael Pittman's just really good, man. And it's due time he gets the respect that he deserves. I mean, when you look at this guy, Jordan, I know he wasn't targeted a ton yesterday, but still made some insane grabs. That touchdown catch over the top of the defender on a dead duck throw by Carson Wentz and then diving into the end zone. That's a grown man play right there that only, soon to be alpha receivers are going to make in this league.
Yeah, no, Michael Pittman was one of my favorite wide receiver prospects coming out. The landing spot just didn't pan out because, River, he got hurt. Rookie year was a weird year. And this year he's starting to come along. I think with Wentz, him and Pittman have been getting better each week. It's just Wentz he can't stay healthy and it scares me. Their offense line scares me, but a player that his price is just getting worse and worse. And I just keep going back to it. Allen Robinson against the Packers with possibly no Jair Alexander. I mean, they're most likely going to be forced to throw the ball for first time in a little bit. He's 5,300, and it's just one of these games they're going to put it together and they're going to get Allen Robinson the ball. And I think with no Jair Alexander, they should be looking to attack this Packers secondary.
I hope. I mean, shit. I hope. He's Justin Fields has thrown 37 times in the last 2 games. You're probably right. He's going to need to throw more this game. But man, I am so jaded on Robinson. I loved him coming into the year. I just want Dalton back. Who would have ever thought I'd be crying to get Dalton back? I mean, it's just insane. I don't know, Ben. What about some value here at the position?
I think when you get down here, it's mostly, I think like stack dependent. You've got the secondary options for some of these prolific, teams, whether you're looking at Arizona or the other Bengals receivers. We talked about if it's not Jamar Chase, guys like Higgins and Boyd are really going to benefit there. You've got Robbie Anderson, who's just, I don't know, he has 18 targets over his last 2 games, but he's only got 7 receptions there, hasn't done much with them. He's going to be a perpetual dart throw because I still firmly believe he'll have a handful of weeks this year where he has just an explosive play that gets him there, but those are few and far between. And then again, it's just more of the same. Hardman, he's going to be in Mahomes stacks, even a 1-up at this point at 42. So I think it's just dependent on how you structure when you're looking for wide receiver value.
Jordan, anybody round out the bottom of the position that you think is worthwhile? Because Ben, you mentioned Hardman.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Hardman is a phenomenal play this week. I also think he'll be pretty chalky. Once again, leading to the fact that this might be the chalkiest we've seen Kansas City stacks all season.
Yeah, no, this is one of those weeks against Washington where they're just in a phenomenal spot. Looking down at the position, I think Curtis Samuel, another week of practice and against Kansas City for 3,500 is great value. But if this guy's healthy, I think he's going to be one of those receivers that elevate this offense because Lamar's been a better passer as Rashad Bateman at 3K. Sammy Watkins hurt his hamstring this past week or this Monday night game. If Bateman can get that practice and get elevated up, I think he's one of those talented rookie receivers that can come in and make an impact. And then against the Chargers defense, they're going to need him. The Chargers have been one of the best secondaries in football, but with him being a third option, I think he can have a good game at 3K.
Ben, Sammy says, in case I haven't mentioned it before, I truly love all you guys in a bromance type of way. And then proceeds to say, this is how you leave a complimentary comment. Then goes on to say, you guys are some ugly motherfuckers. Love is in the eyes of the beholder, the Buffalo War Pigs. So he signs everything Buffalo War Pigs in case you haven't seen it. But
I have.
Yeah. You guys are ugly motherfuckers.
He takes
you in a romance type of way.
You know what? He's part of the team here. We appreciate it. It balances out, keeps us grounded on this show, and that's what we're here for.
Mr. Diablo, what sense in the world does that comment make? Ben's too nice to just
Yeah, I let you handle that.
He says, these guys always hype Kansas City Chiefs receivers, but it's a bad script, but they are dedicated. I appreciate you watching the show, man. I know you're in here a lot, and that's cool with me. All viewers are our friends, most. How is this a bad script for Kansas City's passing game?
There are no bad scripts for Kansas City anymore. It's perpetual good scripts.
So bad. They lost Clyde Edwards-Helaire, so Darrell Williams is the guy. They already decided they don't want to run the football I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something, Jordan, but I don't see any way. Am I saying all of the receivers are going to have big games? No. But how is it a bad script when you have the most prolific passing offense we've seen in years and maybe the worst defense we're going to see all season? Please correct me if I'm wrong.
You are not wrong. I want the Chiefs that are 2-3 with Patrick Mahomes healthy, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce against the Washington defense who gave up one of the worst Hail Marys to Marquez Callaway, touchdowns to Deontay Harris and Cordero Patterson of 20+ yards. This week for the Chiefs, they don't even have to play 4 quarters to get there. It's the Chiefs against the team where Mahomes can go out and throw for 300 yards. They're frustrated. They're a frustrated football team. And that just means that Mahomes is going to want to go throw for 400 each week. And it's just, they're not going to be able to stop anybody. Terry McLaurin's going to have his way with this secondary. And if Daniel Sorensen's out there, you're just going to see Tyreek Hill or Tyrann Mathieu with his hands up again and just see all those memes of him just getting mossed.
Yeah. El Negro Loco, Laffy, why do you feed the trolls? Don't you know this about me by now? I love this shit, man. It makes it fun. What'd you say?
I said you do.
I did. It's fun. It's fun. All right. Jordan.
I think that the Chiefs just might not be that good. That's what I'm just going to say too. I know everybody just thinks like, oh, they're so angry. They're just going to come in and win by like 90. I seriously doubt the line is the line. It's 6.5. Again, remember that. This is not a 3 touchdown spread or something. This is not college football.
Fair.
No, but I don't need a team to be good for fantasy. That's what I'm talking.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
Oh, that's what you're saying. It actually
Cool.
it behooves them and us for them not to be particularly good.
I think we're all saying that. I just think people are so worried. The Chiefs have a lot of problems.
Yeah,
a lot of problems.
I think the Bills are the best team in the AFC right now. I mean, just the way they're playing defensively is just ridiculous.
I want a Bills Chargers AFC championship game. Would love that. I've always rooted for the Chargers because every year, Ben, you know, we talk about every year they lose like 8 games by 1 possession, right? And are in position to win.
I mean,
this new guy gets it.
Brandon Staley's my hero. That man will go for it 4th and 2 from his own 28 just because he's like looking at the Browns. He's like, we're not going to stop them. Let's just keep going. Who cares? Like if we give them the ball here, they're going to run for a touchdown. If we give them the ball down there, they're still going to run for a touchdown.
Yeah, I love the press conference where he was talking about the why you need a run game, and he's like, it's not because you can't throw, it's because you have to be physical. It was great. If you haven't seen that, it's all over Twitter. It made me really like the guy. Yeah. Let's talk about some tight ends then, Ben. Travis Kelce, 7K. I don't understand this price. I don't get why his price has come down this far. He's dropped 80. He's dropped 1,500 in just a few weeks. He's dropped 1,100 since the last time he was on the main slate. How does that make any sense at all?
Yeah, I don't really get it. I mean, it's certainly there's many reasons why the Chiefs are going to be extremely popular this week, and this is one of them. A lot of times we talk about you're paying, upwards of 25, like for those 3 guys, and every little dollar counts. And Kelce being flat 7, he's right next to Waller now. No Kittle, of course. So I don't know. I don't have an explanation, but certainly I think we are all going to say if you have the money, you really want to try to get him. He's a fantastic play this week.
Damn, Steven, I should have thought of that myself.
Yeah, that was smart.
I'm over here doing shows, and Steven Leibowitz is the one putting in the work. He says, for anyone that thinks these guys are ugly mofos, can always download the podcast, give them a 5-star review, and be in the running to win shit. That is true. Leave us a 5-star review with your handle on Twitter or your email or your Awesemo, your Awesemo name, and put you in the running to win a free week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. So thanks, man. Appreciate that. Doing my work for me. What are you doing at the top here, Jordan? Obviously, you like Travis Kelce. I mean, you have to, but is there anybody else?
I don't like Darren Waller for 400 less. I'm just not playing Darren Waller over Travis Kelce. And to be honest with you, like what Kelce's price is, it makes me scared of the mid-range. Like, this makes me want to play either Kelce or just punt the mid-range. We're going to go find our way to the Ricky Seals-Jones punt plays of the week because he's not that much expensive, like much more expensive than your Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson. It's like most weeks he's outscoring them. Like Mark Andrews had a phenomenal week, but now he's probably going to get Derwin James, and that's not going to be the matchup to go to. I'm afraid of the mid-range for the entire week, especially with Hawkinson and his injury as well. It's an ugly mid-range to me.
I don't like a lot either. Hawkinson did a lot of blocking. Ben, it's a terrible fall from grace for TJ Hawkinson that we saw after the first couple of weeks. Mark Andrews is coming off an insane game, 2 touchdowns, and then he got the 2-point conversion on both of those touchdowns. He was spectacular, man. Is there anything in the mid-tier you want to get to?
Damn right, he was spectacular. Watch the breakfast menu. That was the only thing that went well for me last night was Mark Andrews just dominating. I think Jordan
had a lot of under bets that looked really good for like 3.5 quarters.
I really don't understand. I can't believe that game. I bet it doesn't matter, but I bet the under live after they scored the first touchdown. So I even got a better number than 46.5, and I couldn't get there. But
50.5 at one, didn't you?
Yeah. No dice. But I think Jordan brought this up. I totally agree. A lot of times when you're talking about the next tier of tight ends, they're almost, I'm not gonna say they're half as expensive as Travis Kelce, but they're, you're talking about like they're 4,500 and Kelsey's 8,000. And it's like, okay, here you're talking about a $15 to $2,000 difference. It's just not enough because the gap between Kelsey and these guys is immense. So I'll go down to like Evan Ingram and save money in different builds and things like that. But it really makes it hard for Fant, Schultz, Hawkinson, Andrews types. They're good players, but I'm going to either save even more money or find my money for the elite option.
Yeah, I'm here with you. No doubt about it. Hey, by the way, NHL strategy show opening
First
night,
one.
boys. Opening night of NHL. I think ESPN's hosting a doubleheader for the first time in like 100 years. If you actually wanted to get some NHL content, we got some great guys doing this. Like Jake Hari is amazing with NHL. So is Cliffy, Josh Harris. Those guys will be on the show. We have projections, ownership, all of that stuff. Top Stacks tool. If you wanted to check it out at basically no risk, use the promo code crosscheck, one word, all caps, and you get NHL DFS for $3. Get everything $3 when you use the promo code crosscheck. That's NHL Awesemo Plus. It gets you everything that there is: player projections, ownership, top stack, lineup builder, premium Slack channel. Use the promo code crosscheck at awesemo.com/join. And if you want to get everything for the week, Awesemo Plus Platinum for football, hockey, baseball, you name it, every sport out there, use the promo code. What are we at? What do we go? NFL First Look, Jordan? NFL First Look, all one word, all caps, 25% off Awesemo Plus Platinum for the week. Everything on the site. Again, all these tools built by Alex Baker himself. I'll throw out a couple of value guys. We'll go around the horn. Favorite low-end defense, and then we say sayonara. Ben, I'm going to go with Ricky Seals-Jones here. I think he's perfectly fine with Logan Thomas on the IR. I honestly just, any Washington players I'm okay with at this point. Njoku was targeted a lot last game, ran more routes than Austin Hooper, who wasn't targeted once on the day. And I don't think Mo Alley Cox is the worst option if Ricky Seals-Jones gets absurdly popular against KC, which is very possible. Any value you like?
Evan, I mean, I know it's bad
Don't do this to me.
No, I'm doing it. Obviously, I prefer Daniel Jones back there, but this is an if statement, if they have no Golladay, Slayton, Shepard, or Saquon, it's not going to be good. But at that price point, somebody's going to have the targets. And we saw late in the game, it was him and Kadarius Toney literally every play until Toney got ejected. So you could do worse than that at 34. Do I like it? No, but again, you're doing it for salary relief mostly.
What about you, Jordan?
So there's only 10 tight ends who received over a 17% target share. Cole Kmet was one who got 19 at 2,800. I'll pay for Cole Kmet because I think Fields is going to have to throw more. I think he's going to get over 25 attempts this week. So Cole Kmet at 2,800 is my pump tight end.
I like it. Look, when you're getting at target share at that price point at a bad position, I'm okay getting there. All right, let's go below. What do you guys say? Below what? Give me a range here, Ben.
Below 29.
Below 2,900. All right, I like it. That's tough.
That's why I said it.
Oh yeah, it's ugly.
That is really ugly. Feel free, either of you, to go first here.
I'll go first. I'll take the Cardinals. I think they'll be able to get pressure. Baker has just he's a torn labrum. Like, his passing yards were so inflated. Like, his yards after catch were huge. The Cardinals against Baker with a torn labrum. I know Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt will have their way. I think they'll be able to get some turnovers on Baker.
What about you, Ben?
I'll go with the Browns. I think on the other side, they're able to generate pressure. They've got at least, they had a 9-sack game in there. They're at home. We'll see. Maybe Kyle's a little banged up. That's just a game that could produce a lot of different scenarios. So if you're not fully punting, like I was going to say the Lions, just because they're basically the min, but I think the Browns are a fine option at 26.
Yeah, I don't want to go with Washington, although you could see something where it's like sack, fumble, scoop, and score for that defensive line for Washington, but I don't know. It might be Houston, honestly. Like, Carson Wentz looked good last night, but he's not very good. If I'm punting, Houston, Detroit, it's all ugly down there. It's all really ugly down there. I'd prefer not to get down to that range, but sometimes it works. I don't know. That'll do it for us. Jordan Vanek, DFS, over on Twitter. Hit him up. Solid work as always, brother. Ben Rasa at JazzRaz DFS. Shout out your boy Jordan Klein before you go. Say, hey, thanks, Jordan Klein with a K. We appreciate you producing this show every day, getting up early on the West Coast. And I'm at Laffy_D on the Twitters. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Ownership show, NHL strategy show, 2 p.m., PGA strategy show, 4 p.m. And while you're at it, if you got some time, check out the odds channel, Awesemo Odds, and the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. Eric Lindquist just put up a pretty sweet waiver wire vid. So get all that action and research in before it's too late. We'll see you back here for the next one. Peace.